You should have on your tables a couple of sheets of paper, information from Anna Balzer about her film and her the way she is devoting her life to human rights and human dignity for the Palestinians and for the struggle for a independent Palestine. I'd just like to remind you, talking about material, that we do have more material on the issue of Israel-Palestine at the entrance. Kuno and Bina over there. We have membership forms for those who are not members who would like to be. We have a list you can put your name and at least email on if you would like our mail-outs and are not already receiving them. So do take a look at that at the entrance. Well, a fantastic lady, Anna Balzer, who's devoted her life to as I say, the Palestinian cause. And from one fantastic lady to another, I'd like to ask Shanti Deriam to come up to the front here, please. In August, Shanti was appointed by the UN Human Rights Council to a fact-finding panel to investigate the raid by Israel on a flotilla of ships, 8 of them, to Gaza, carrying humanitarian goods and provisions to assess possible violations of humanitarian and human rights law. Their report was published on the 22nd of September, and Shanti will talk about the investigation and its findings. She herself is a long-standing activist for women's rights and a founding member and former executive director of the International Women's Rights Action Watch Asia Pacific. She serves as a women's rights expert for key UN agencies such as the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, the UNDP, UNIFEM, and the UN Division for the Advancement of Women, amongst many other things. I know that she is a very active lady in general. So, Shanti, do please tell us about your experiences, if you're getting it together technically there, that is. Would you need some help?
I need to get my flash drive on that.
Okay. Could we ask for some technical help with the flash drive? Don't know whether, yeah, Marut, could you?
I just need my drive out of this. I need that.
You just want a flash drive?
I need my drive, yeah.
You want to take it? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Shanti is normally resident in Kuala Lumpur and was fully prepared to come here to do this evening, to speak tonight for us. But we managed to, in various ways, or she managed to combine with some other meetings of the sort of organizations that I was talking about a moment ago. And again, as I say, we're very grateful that that you've been able to be here tonight, Shanti, for this very special event of ours, this commemoration of the United Nations International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian People. And those of you sitting over the side, why don't you come down and sit with us down here so you can see and hear better and be part of things as well a little bit better. We don't like anybody to be too shy here. You don't need to be.
Yeah.
Okay? So Shanti, please.
Okay, thank you, Stuart, and good evening, everybody. As Stuart said, I was, is this working? You can hear me, right?
Yes.
As Stuart said, I was appointed on a 3-member panel by the Human Rights Council to investigate the attack by Israel on the Gaza flotilla. I don't know how clear that map is, but what that map is trying to show us is the blockaded area of the Gaza Strip, which is 20 nautical miles into the sea. And the blockade has a significance for the flotilla and the attack. That is why I want us to look at it. And if you can see on top, you have 72 nautical miles and 64 nautical an angle, which comes down, and the point of that angle there is where the attack took place. So the flotilla was 72 nautical miles at one angle and 64 nautical miles at another angle away from the coast. The significance of that is that it was international waters. 12 nautical miles is considered territorial waters, and a country has the right to intercept any unauthorized vessel within those 12 nautical miles, but this was both 72 and 64. So I just wanted us to see the location on the ocean where this happened. There's a lot of course, outrage that the attack on the flotilla took place in international waters. However, as I speak, I will explain that it is not merely the attack on the international waters that was a problem. According to the law of the seas, while the ocean and international waters should only be used for peaceful purposes, there are exceptions to that. And that a belligerent action or an aggressive action on the high seas can occur under certain circumstances. And this is the reason given by Israel for attacking on in international waters, that they had good and valid reasons. They have reasons for everything. As I was watching, and I cannot resist saying this, as I was watching this documentary, I was thinking, we have to really attack not just the incidents and the attacks or the acts of aggression, but we have to also fully understand the rationale that Israel gives and attack that rationale, not just the event or the incident. When you say that in 1947, 48, I'm just referring, if you will excuse me, I'm referring to the documentary. When you say that the vast majority of the population on the land that is now is called Israel was Palestinian, not Israeli, not Jewish, and that the UN resolution gave away a lot of that land. The Israelis say that BC, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 years ago, that was their land. That's what they say. So they walked that land before Jesus did, and certainly before the Holy Prophet Muhammad did. And therefore, we've got to understand that reasoning that they are giving and be able to address that reasoning. So this is why I want us all to understand the incident. The outrage is not merely because of that the incident was on the high seas. Now, having said that, let me go to the reactions of the United Nations when the attack occurred. As you all know, the attack occurred on the 31st, very early hours of the morning of the 31st of May. Immediately, and I'm not going to go into the actual attack because that I think you have some knowledge about. It was basically 6 seagoing vessels that were there, the largest of them being the ship called Mavi Marmara, a Turkish-owned ship which had more than 500 passengers who were all activists on that ship. Total number of passengers in the flotilla of the 6 ships was about more than 700. If you combine the passengers, 500 of whom were on one ship, the Mavi Marmara, which was a huge, it was more like a ferry boat. It was a huge vessel. And the attack occurred at about 4:32 in the morning, when the majority of the passengers were Muslims, were performing their early morning prayer. That was when the attack occurred. Anyway, now, the very next day, on the 1st of June, the Security Council convened at an emergency sitting. And it's very interesting that the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon was not in New York, and he was not present at that sitting. He was in Uganda, in Kampala, and he immediately got the news, and he issued a statement the very next day, and that was on the 1st of June, and he said that he was shocked by the killings and injuries of people on the boats. As you know, 9 individuals were killed in that event. He was shocked by the killings and the injuries and had condemned the violence. Secondly, he called for a full investigation to determine exactly how the bloodshed had taken place and stressed that Israel must urgently provide a full explanation. So very brave words. He said the right things. Now, his statement was conveyed to the Security Council, the emergency sitting of the Security Council, by an Assistant Secretary General of the UN in charge of political affairs. His name is Fernandez Taranco, and Mr. Fernandez Taranco said that the bloodshed would have been avoided if repeated calls on Israel to end the counterproductive and unacceptable blockade of Gaza had been heeded. So there is a clear connection being made to that blockade. Now, I'm sure because you're a support group for the Palestinian cause, you know, you have enough information about the effects and impact of that blockade on the people of Gaza. I will just point to one thing, the fact that it is 20 nautical miles into the sea, no other vessel can come in. It has completely destroyed the livelihoods of Palestinian fishermen. They cannot go out to fish. So Palestinians cannot go into the blockaded area either. Nobody can come in and nobody can go out. So the fishing industry has been destroyed as a result. There's also land blockade. And we should not forget Egypt's collaboration in all of this. The land blockade on the left side, on the southern side, is being maintained by Egypt. It's cooperating with Israel on that. And of course, the northern end is Israeli border. And because of the complete blockade, the people in Gaza have suffered enormously. More than 70% are now dependent on food aid. Their jobs have been destroyed. Only 20% of electricity and so on is allowed inside this. Total destruction of practically everything that is there. And I'm not going to spend too much time on the impact. Needless to say that the impact of the blockade is unacceptable, at unacceptable levels, causing immense suffering to the people in Gaza. So the UN pointed out to the fact that the blockade is part of the problem, because the flotilla of ships was really, their intention was not only to deliver humanitarian aid because the people were suffering so much and were so deprived, but part of the intention, a small group at least, had the intention of breaking the blockade. And since 2006, when the blockade had been intensified, there have been several ships and flotillas going. This was the largest. The Free Gaza movement, the Viva Palestine, all of these organizations had decided to do a big event, and they thought that that might create some impact, and they felt that they might be able to break the blockade by taking a